Good evening. As of the time that I record this video, we are only 90 hours away from Florida Results Night 2020. Like and subscribe, hate and comment. These are my predictions on some of the big races and some of the more important races to me. So like and subscribe again, hate and comment. Remember, if you have not voted and you have an absentee ballot, I would not put that thing in the mail at this point. Remember, in Florida, the ballot must not only be postmarked but received at your county election department. The best thing that you should do if you are in county would be to do the early voting or bring your ballot on election day, turn it in, or just vote it then. Little background. Statewide, of course, we do not have compulsory mail-in ballots. We are not Washington State, we're not California. You have to request that ballot. And this is a very topsy-turvy year for many reasons. The global bastard has changed certain norms. Usually it is Republicans that dominate in absentee ballots. This year, Democrats are significantly outpacing Republicans by about 650,000 absentee ballots. On the other hand, early voting, which is usually where Democrats kick Republican butts, Republicans have significantly closed that gap between absentees and Republicans. There is a good chance that Republicans could catch total votes cast before Election Day by the amount of Republicans who are voting on early voting. Now, of course, there's one caveat before this video is released. It is souls to the polls. That is the Sunday before the election. It is historically, since we have done since we've done the early voting system in 2002, this is the day when many African-American churchgoers vote. They go to their church and then caravan, literally walk or caravan or drive to the early voting site. That is mostly a Democratic leaning vote, so that may keep Republicans from overall having that early lead, but we shall see. There has been, of course, a big draw to get many people to vote early, in both parties, no matter what Donald Trump says about the issue, and it should be very interesting. Now, I'm going to go through the 6 ballot amendments here in Florida. We're going to go over some key races for Congress and some of the implications of it, and a couple of things that I wanted to talk about on other elections. This will be kind of a long video. You can kind of skip through. I might put some timers on there. I'm going to start with the Florida amendments. Now, the first Florida amendment is putting the word citizen. You have to be a citizen to vote. It'll clear the 60 hurdle. I'm going to skip Amendment 2 for a second. I'm going to go to Amendment 3. Amendment 3 is the one that both Republicans and Democratic Party agree should not pass. This is the elimination of the closed primary system. Florida is basically a closed primary system. You have to be a Democrat. Only a Democrat can vote for Democrat in primary. Only Republican can vote for Republican. Only a Libertarian can vote for a Libertarian. If you are not party affiliated, you do not get to vote, which I am perfectly fine with. Join a party if you want to vote in a primary. This would change that. I would go to the California system. It would take all the candidates running for an office, throw them together, regardless of the vote. The top 2 would go into November, and it is hated by both parties because, let's face it, Nancy Pelosi has been the more moderate choice in her reelection. It also has the possibility of not having a major party candidate run for major office. California in 2018 had no Republican running for U.S. Senate, which definitely depressed Republican vote and gave Gavin Newsom an even bigger victory than what was expected. If this was in effect in 2018, 2 Republicans would have been the gubernatorial nominee, and before you say, well, the no-party affiliates would have gotten behind, no, they would not have. There is no poll that shows that Andrew Gillum or, as she campaigned as, Gwen Graham, Bob Graham's daughter, would have overtaken Ron DeSantis. Then along the other Republican in the race, good old boy, our former commissioner of agriculture. Just wouldn't happen. So not only will it fail, I don't think it'll get the 50%. Amendment 4 is the double, I call it the double jeopardy rule. You would have to vote for an amendment twice to take effect. I don't see that getting 60% either. Amendment 5 would extend the Save Our Homes Amendment for homesteading from 2 years to 3. When you buy a new property, that should hit 60. It'll be close, though. It should hit 60. And then the spouses of veterans, deceased, homesteading, that should clear. I'll get to Amendment 2 at the end. For races that mean something to myself, in Miami, you have the Miami-Dade mayor. You have Estefan Bovo and Daniela Cava Levine. Even though Hispanic Republicans have outpolled and have outshowed in this general election, to the fact that it is scaring Democrats for the big race. If this was 2 years ago, or 4 years ago, or 2 years ago, Democrats greatly outpolled Republicans in Dade. Republicans are about 15% higher already, but I don't think that's going to be enough to carry Esteban Bovo across the finish line. Mayor in Miami-Dade is a nonpartisan race, but everybody knows who's on who. The Democrats have openly spent money for Daniela Levine Cava, and I think that Cava will come on top. She will be the first Democrat, again, nonpartisan, but she'll be the first Democrat elected since Alex Pinellas back in the 2000 to 2004. Actually 96 to 2004. And the first mayor and the strong mayor setup. Now we're going to go to the House. State House Republicans have dominated since 1996. That will continue, but the majority will shrink. There are 120 seats up for grabs. I believe that Republicans will win between 63 and 67. It'll be the lowest majority that Republicans have had since the 2000 redistricting. In the state Senate, it's going to be very close. This is the only chance that Democrats could have to control a branch of redistricting. They would need 20 to functionally control with a 50-50 tie. Technical control, I think it's going to be 22 Republicans. It could be as low as 19. That's really unlikely, but I think it's going to be 22 Republicans. Now, for those who don't understand Florida's redistricting, the governor is not involved. This is a state legislature decision. Florida is dictated by federal law. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 protects African Americans and Hispanics into districts by federal law. There has to be federal representation. At the same time, there was an amendment a few years ago that said you have to make squares. You have to compact your districts. And I'm scratching my head not because my head is itchy, because it doesn't. They're definitely always in competition with each other. That we redistrict a bunch of times after we redistrict. For Republicans, and because of the federal rules, we tend to get many Republicans will join up with African American Democrats in the State House and State Senate. Because the majority is going to be a lot less, there's going to be even more pressure for Republicans to make, to try to not have to go back every time to a judge. Now, Florida now, for the first time in my lifetime, has a Republican conservative majority in the state Supreme Court. State Supreme Court is the wackiest court in the country, historically. And who knows what they would decide on a redistricting. But my belief, when we get into the U.S. Congress, is that they will be able to get through, but they probably will have to go through a couple times. Probably going to have a couple different votes in 2022. Probably have different districts for 2024. But I think Republicans will do what they need to maintain House majority, State Senate majority for at least the next 6 years after the redistricting. So now I'm going to get into the House seats. And I'm going to get into the two that are going to be the most impacted by federal redistricting. Florida is projected to get at least one, most likely two, new representatives. The two representatives that are going to be the most affected by this, in my opinion, is the former governor, who used to be a Republican and lost once as a Senate and a Republican, and became a governor as a Republican, left the party, became an independent, lost the Senate as an independent, lost the governorship running as a Democrat. His name is Charlie Crist. And I think he is going to be the most affected by redistricting, because in the 29, I believe we're going to get 29, the 29 districts, there's a good chance that Republicans are going to try to cave him out. He is, depending on which service you look at, he's either a likely or a lean on re-election. Republicans will do everything they can to try to disaffect that district to make it more likely so we can get a gain. Part of that is going to be to take the African Americans that are in Tampa Bay area and make a better district for African American chances to get elected in that area, to make where Charlie is more competitive through Clearwater, maybe even rank that district up into Newport Richey area. So Charlie has to make that decision in 2002. I think he is going to easily win re-election this time, but he's going to have to decide, does he want to go into a district that may look a lot more different than what he is. I don't think he's going to run in what I believe will be a created African American district. Will he decide, I'm going to run a third time for Senate? Is he going to try to run a statewide office, or is he going to try to take that chance and try to do a new House district that he is not going to be as favored in? The other district is in the other part of the state, my end of the state, which is Donna Shalala. Now, Donna Shalala is running right now for re-election. She's running against Maria Salazar. I believe that she will defeat Maria Salazar. I don't believe that this race is even going to be as close as it was last time. With that being said, again, the state is going to have to try to redistrict. Again, we know they're going to add 2 seats. South Florida is probably going to get one. If by South Florida you mean Southwest Florida, throw that into Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. The map is going to change. I believe that the seat that is up between Debbie Mucarsel-Powell and Carlos Jimenez is going to be more friendly to Republicans next time. I'm going to predict the upset and say that Carlos Jimenez, the current mayor of Miami-Dade County, is going to defeat Debbie Mucarsel-Powell. My belief on that is, recently we just went to the Keys, my family. 4 years ago, 2 years ago, didn't see anything with any, Carlos Curbella, good guy, didn't see too many signs for him when he was running for re-election. 4 years ago, 2 years ago. Saw a ton of them, Carlos Jimenez, in that northern part of the Keys. I believe that he is going to pull off a squeaker. When he pulls off that squeaker, when we redistrict, his district is going to get more Republican. Donna Shalala's area is going to get more Latino. And Donna Shalala, at her age and her inability to speak Spanish, while I think a Democrat will retain the Donna Shalala seat, I don't think it'll be Donna Shalala. So this is kind of her last gasp for 2 years. She might try and run in 2 years. I mean, you could easily make the argument that the only reason why that seat was Republican for so long is because the occupant was the very lovely, the very well-liked Ileana Ros-Lehtinen. It's very possible that she could win re-election in 2 years, but it's going to be even less favorable to somebody who does not speak Spanish. With that being said, the other 2 races that are going to be close but are going to stay Republican is Vern Buchanan. Vern Buchanan is a congressman in the, let me make sure I got the right district here. He is a congressman in the 16th district of Florida, and he's running against Margaret Good. Margaret Good's got a lot of press. If this election was maybe 2 months ago, I think it would be a lot closer. I think he is going to pull it off by about 4 points. The other case that could flip to Democrats, I don't think it will be in the seat that was formerly held by Spano. It's between Scott Franklin and Alan Cohen. I think Franklin pulls it off in Central Florida, but it's going to be real close. At the end of the day, it's going to be 15 Republican, 12 Democrat. And when we get into 2022, I believe it's going to be 18 Republican, 11 Democrat. Of the 18 Republicans, 4 will be swing districts. Of the 11 Democrats, 3 will be swing districts. And at least for a couple of years, we're going to see 2 more African American and 1 more Latino representative. We'll see what happens when Florida redistricts, and then the courts make those decisions and screw the whole thing up. Now back to Amendment 2. Amendment 2 is the amendment that I fear most. It is the reason why I can have this horrible beard and this uncloven look, because I don't have to work out of my house to make a decent salary. I have tremendous fears if a $15 minimum wage pops up, because people who work from home, who do telemarketing, who do customer service, who do sales. I used to work for Carnival. I'm not breaking any covenants. I've been out of that company for over 4 years now. This is going to crush the salespeople who have been pretty much decimated by the global bastard. And when I was there, and maybe it's changed, we made minimum wage for 40 hours, and we worked 80 to 100 hours during WAVE. WAVE is the first 3 months of the year. You got salary of minimum wage. The reason why is because you were going to make it in sales. This amendment passes, all of a sudden, those jobs become way more expensive. An initial raise of 13% when nobody's sailing a cruise. And then it's going to eventually go up to about 80% after 6 years. People who work over the phones, I have worked for companies that have said, you can do this job in other states, but Frank, if you move to California, you move to Washington State, this job is over. We can't deal with the regulations and the salary. You are going to take a lot of those jobs and destroy them. And you're going to take a lot of warehouse positions who have looked at Florida, and hey, it is hard work. If you've done it, it's hot as balls, it's sweaty, and if they're going to make the same salary as the guy who's sweeping up the floors, and I've seen the SEIU say that healthcare workers are going to make more, and that is just not true. If anything, healthcare workers are going to be unemployed, or you're going to compact more stuff on nurses and doctors and PAs. I fear it's going to pass. I think it's going to get 63%. It only needs 60. It is a horrible amendment. Hopefully I am wrong. Hopefully. The last big thing is president. And there are 29 electoral votes. Now, I will do a video later on when it comes to the Senate, and I will do a video of my breakdown on what I think the ultimately is going to break down on all 538. You have 2 dueling situations that don't make much sense historically. Most polls have showed that Joe Biden has outperformed, and in some polls even leading, with the over 65, over 75 crowd. Some of that has to do with, I'll call it natural attrition. Okay? An 85-year-old 4 years ago might not be here now. And they're being replaced by more liberal persons and more people from the Northeast who have brought their crappy politics and fled the taxes to come to Florida. On the other hand, of the curve doesn't make much sense, there is a very strong chance that Donald Trump will win Latinos in the state of Florida. And that is because of massive overperformance with Hispanics in South Florida. Not just Cubans, but Hispanics in general. Venezuelans, Maria Ricans, Colombians, Nicaraguans, and of course Cubans. My prediction, Trump won the state of Florida, I believe, by 1.4%, and I think he will win it 4 years ago. I think he wins the state of Florida by 1.5%. I think he will clear 50. There's not enough strong third-party support. I believe it will be 50.3 Trump, 48.8 Biden, the rest mostly with Joe Jurgensen, the Libertarian, and a handful of Green. Later on, I'll make a video about what I think about the 538 and Senate predictions, and we'll go from there. Like and subscribe, hate and comment. Well, let's see if I'm right. When you're right 52% of the time, you're wrong 48% of the time, but we'll see what happens.